Very impressive with the winning double there yesterday.
Very impressive too, David, on Wednesday at Canterbury. The Enforcer is back. It would appear Darren Beadman's had a very cosy run to the throne without the competition from Mick Dittman, but it's going to get very hot in the next few weeks.
Well, he showed the Enforcer qualities a couple of times yesterday.
He's lost nothing.
Well, I'll tell you one person that has lost something. I haven't seen him for a few weeks, but straight from Pentridge, you look as though you come from, Keith. There's been a change of image down there.
Yes, it's the, I suppose you'd call it the octagonal cut. It's the cropper flop. He was the flop at Moonee Valley yesterday, the Big O. Well, he's still called the Big O. They're just spelling it differently.
I thought you might have been modelling yourself on me there for a moment, Keith. I wasn't too sure.
No, David, no. Look, let's talk racing. Let's talk octagonal.
OK, we'll let you off the hook. Does he miss Beadman?
I don't know whether he misses Beadman, but he was never a chance yesterday. He dropped back to second last. You'll see those familiar cerise colours getting back to second last soon. He's the 6-4 favourite. Maybe we put him on a pedestal that is too high, and the only excuse I could make for him, and mind you...
Keith, look, he's going back through the field now in a very ordinary run section there. What's Gouchy doing so far back?
I don't know, Max. I mean, there's some pretty average horses ahead of him, and Sir Boom at the finish really outplugs him to the line. Maybe octagonal is a grinder. He certainly doesn't have the adaptability of the champs that would put him on the same pedestal.
But both Gouchy and Hawkes defended the tactics of the ride yesterday, Keith.
Well, I don't know what else you could do. I mean, he didn't flatter, he didn't storm home. There he is, given a couple of reminders that he's supposed to be a champion, but he doesn't respond like one.
Keith, Darren Beadman said he made his run in another county. Look how far wide he is. His finishing section would have been comparable with the others. I thought it was a bad ride. I'm disappointed in octagonal, but yeah, the point is it wasn't really. You can't say he's a no-hoper on that performance. Don't get into the Perkins syndrome. He deserves another chance.
But can he be as dominant in the spring as he was in the autumn?
I think he will. I think he'll quickly regain winning form. It's just that he's a different horse than the one we thought he was. He's not adaptable. He's a grinder. And when it races like the Cox Plate around here, I think he'll outgrind him.
Gee, he was grinding pretty good. You have a look at his finishing section. I think you'll find he ground pretty good. But I'm going to put forward again the Beadman factor. I think he's a better horse for Darren Beadman than anybody else.
Well, Beadman sacked him. And at the finish, Max, Sir Boom, who's a above average winter horse, he outplugged octagonal to the post. It was a very disappointing day yesterday, but I'm not condemning him on that. I'm just feeling the pain of it.
One thing we haven't done is paid credit to Lee Friedman getting another weight for age group 1 up with Poetic King in that race, though. He's got a superb track record. Oh,
there's no doubt about the genius of Lee Friedman. I think that's to be taken, I was just going to say taken for granted. I think we do now. But I think the one relevant point in Keith's argument is that Sir Boom aspect. That does concern me, but I do think that Darren Gouchy should have adapted better to the pace on octagonal. I don't know why John Hawkes gives him diplomatic immunity and said he's satisfied with the ride when John is only too happy to criticise other riders.
Well, while there are high hopes of Moonee Valley for the fans of octagonal, similarly for Catalan opening at Rose Hill, weren't all that impressed with that run.
No, Catalan opening was disappointing, as octagonal was, but nevertheless will get better.
Who rode Catalan opening, Max?
Darren Beadman.
Maybe you needed the Gouch on it.
Perhaps so, Keith, but I do think the fact here that Darren Beadman did give Catalan opening his chance. I'd like you to study this, Keith. That's Catalan opening in 3rd place in the check colours, just getting the perfect sit up on the pace, just off the pace, having the horse going very comfortably and in touch. Peruzzi, 4-year-old, steamed across from the outside, set a good pace, but I'd also, Keith, like you to note the finishing effort of Shame, who missed the start and goes to the line most encouragingly.
Yeah, one of the eye-catching runs of the race, Shame, finishing 4th after that flow start that you referred to. And we've got to give credit, as we almost didn't do, to Lee Friedman, who won 13 Group 1 races last season with his Manikato Stakes win. We've got to give credit to this horse, this winner, Legal Agent, and his trainer, Pat Quinn, of most underrated.
A very, very good point. I think the point of the day, the great job that Pat Quinn's done with this horse. But Keith, note Catalan opening now. He just didn't ping to the line. Bart Cummings made the point that perhaps these 4-year-olds just need to be fitter and more seasoned to take on these top-class sprinters like Legal Agent and be competitive. But I think Catalan opening will improve. I think Darren Beedman gave Catalan Opening every chance, and anybody that says that, Keith, well, I think ought to go and have another short back at sides.
Well, your acid tongue hasn't gone astray in your or my absence, Max?
I would hope not.
OK, what about the performance yesterday of Aquasoft? A great country performer.
Sensational. Sensational at Coffs Harbour. Beaten 33 lengths last start.
And it's come back sensational.
Great. Yeah, great. Well, that's what Keith, that's what we've got to put up with in these a mile and a quarter welters at Rosehill. The last one, I think, was won by Tobias, who was beaten something like 15 lengths. Tobias didn't get hot yesterday. And here is Aquasoft, beaten 33 lengths last start at Coffs Harbour. Of course, there were excuses. Didn't handle a soft track. I believe it was a savagely biased track. Would want to be 33 lengths is a long distance, but certainly Aquasoft had plenty to spare yesterday.
And a great moment for young Neil Jolly as well.
Yes,
first city win.
Yes, and will ride more winners too.
Well, yesterday, of course, Blazing Reality made good ground from deep in the field yesterday in the Mackenzie Stakes at Moonee Valley, Keith.
Yes, he did, Dave, and he probably took that step too, that transitional step from winter class to virtually spring class, although his trainer Len Trelaw will dodge the Ascot Vale Stakes. He thinks that might be just a bit too rich. He'll go for a rung or two below it, but he's a pretty smart galloper, Blazing Reality. He is improving with every run, and he's going to pick up one at least, I think, in the spring before the creme de la creme comes along.
Keith, how was the ground on the fence at Moonee Valley yesterday?
It brought down the downfall of virtually every leader, Max. Those who led on the fence, I think 4 or 5 finished last. So it was a bias against those on the fence, without doubt.
Therefore, the run of Invincible yesterday, second in the race that we've just seen, was a pretty handy performance.
Yep, that was a very good performance, and I think probably against the bias. It's one to follow.
Well, just going back to the big news of the day, the demise yesterday of Octagonal, if we can use that phrase. Setting now for the defence of the Cox Plate in October. What sort of preparation do you think John Hawkes will give him now?
Yes, he said this morning, John Hawkes, David, that his plans won't alter. He'll have his next start in the Memsie Stakes. He had no excuse. Mind you, before the race, I've never known John to be so confident with the phrases like the eye of the tiger. He's as close to being unbeatable as you could get. But he copped that in his stride. Didn't seem all that perturbed, strangely. And the plans won't change. And I still think, come Cox Plate Day, that the Big O will stand up.
What was the reaction at Moonee Valley yesterday to the failure?
Well, it was anticlimactic because Octagonal, with a bit of theatre, was brought onto the track 5 minutes later than all others. He was cheered onto the track, and when he flopped, there was a sprinkling of cheers, and because it was 14s to 10s the winner, but more Jekylls or Heckles and a few boos for the winner, and one of a stunned reaction for Octagonal, I suppose. It was most anticlimactic, and racing needed Octagonal yesterday to stand up and show us that he's what we thought he was, the king. Yeah,
and yesterday at the Premier Stakes, we were fated and treated by so many outstanding performances last season with the 3-year-olds. What can we look forward to them?
Well, for a start, I think you're going to see 3-year-olds like Saintly, Nothing Like a Dane, and Volante next Sunday in the Warwick Stakes. And Mick Dittman has been engaged for Volante. Jack Denham was keeping him on tenterhooks for a while, but I think after Jack saw Octagonal, he said, I better go and secure Mick. And, of course, Volante is going to be very, very competitive with the others. But I do think that Cummings made a point that the 3-year-olds of last season, they've got to be pretty fit and pretty forward and fully wound up to beat these top-class seasoned sprinters. Yesterday, they went in a little underdone. That could have been the case too with Octagonal. They will get better, but I still can't see that Octagonal has a great deal, if anything, on the other 3-year-olds of last season. The Nothing Like a Danes, the Saintleys, the Volantes. I'm going to have another look at Octagonal before I'm going to say he's any good thing in the Cox Plate.
So he's obviously not in your black book at the moment?
No, definitely not.
What have we got there?
Well, we've got 3-year-olds. We've got Shame, put up an outstanding performance in the Premier Stakes. Catalan Opening will get fitter, can be placed to advantage. That might put him in nicely in the Doncaster with a pleasing weight. That defeat yesterday in Peruzzi. Very fast, very good, and she can be placed to advantage also.
Well, Max, we should farewell Keith. Keith, great to have you back on the program. Great to see you made such a great recovery from that lobotomy too. It's fantastic. It's doing good.
I thought he looks like Richard Carlton gone to seed.
Well, Max, I think you've jumped prematurely off the bandwagon of the best horse in Australia, and I think you'll pay for it.
Well, I can jump back on pretty quick too.
Oh, you've done that before. Mind you, if they never got beaten, I wouldn't have to be coming in here every Sunday and looking at Max for 15 minutes.
Okay, the Clark Kent lookalike. Okay. We'll take a break and be back. The boys will be back to battle it out again next week as we look at racing on the show on Sportsworld next week. Take a break, back soon.
Where else can you cut out the middleman with